Okay, thank you everyone for coming out. So my voice is struggling. I've recovered from some sickness, but still lost my voice. I'll try my best to speak up. I apologize to anybody in the back who cannot hear me. With that being said, I call to order this special meeting of the Oconee County Council. Time is 6 p.m., January 23rd, 2024. All right, let's begin with a moment of silence. Okay, Mr. David Root, would you pray for us?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Dearest Father, thank you for this day, for this moment, every moment that you give us that is a gift. And we are appreciative, and I pray that you would make us all the more grateful for all the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. It's wonderful, this life that you've given us. For opportunities like this, we are also grateful for the public showing out in the numbers that we have tonight. Thank you. I pray that this meeting will go smoothly, that we would be quick to listen, slow to anger, slow to speak, and that we would really follow your wisdom. Council would get your insight, and this meeting would flow according to your word, your love, your principles. In your name I pray. Amen.
Mr. Glenn Hart, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have approval of minutes for the January 16th, 2024 regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion or changes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Vote is 5-0.
Okay, County Attorney comments, Mr. David Root.
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Root. County Administrator comments, Mr. Amanda Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Thank you all so much for coming. I do see a lot of familiar and unfamiliar faces. Just for safety purposes, every door in this building can be exited if we need to. Not everybody would need to go out that door. If you'll look just over here to these double doors, those are exit doors as well, and exit doors are located in the front of the building as well. Typically, we don't have this many people in the room, and God forbid something happen. I just want everyone to be aware that there are multiple exits if necessary. Also, restrooms are located on the hallway just outside of this room here. An additional set of restrooms is on the front hallway on your left.
Thank you, Ms. Brock.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have discussion regarding the $25 million general obligation bond secured by Oconee County for the purposes of designing, acquiring, constructing, installing, equipping, and rehabilitating various capital projects, including wastewater improvements and related equipment. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Amanda Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, members of council, there has seemed to be a lot of interest in the county's future investment in economic and development expansion through the I-85 corridor for sewer. For reference for everyone, some of these may be difficult to see. There are sets of maps on the wall. Service area first. We're going to try to get those up on the screen. I didn't realize that they were as low as they are. So as you'll see on this screen here, Oconee County has identified service areas for water and sewer infrastructure in Oconee County. The pink area is the Wahala District. The purplish blue area is the Westminster District. It's blue on this one, the purple over there. The yellow area is the Seneca District. And in the bottom portion, that's the I-85 corridor. For the last 20 years, Oconee County has had a priority for investment into the 85 corridor sewer expansion. That expansion has come to fruition with the passage of bond funding for the payment for the infrastructure expansion, specifically for wastewater on the 85 corridor. On the next map, thanks, Jen. There we go. This small green area on the bottom is not an identified exact location, but rather a geographic location, not based on property lines, not based on anything other than a conceptual idea of where sewer infrastructure expansion would happen and be most fruitful for commercial and industrial growth on the 85 corridor. This year, council prioritized again for the 10th year in a row as the top 3 priority in its annual strategic plan meeting, the sewer infrastructure expansion on I-85 corridor. Currently, we are working directly with the OJRSA on what is phase 1, which goes from the Golden Corner Commerce Park located on Highway 59 down to the Welcome Center just past Highway 11. The next phase for engineering that we have been working on in conjunction with Blue Ridge Electric is for a sewer expansion from Golden Corner Commerce Park to the Blue Ridge Electric parcel at near exit 4. The remainder of the plan is just a plan. It's a verbal plan to see what naturally and organically grows from there. So if we get an industry based in one and there was a need for a sewer expansion directly across the street, that might be the next obvious phase. But there was no desire for sewer there, but there was a commercial interest at the exit 1. I can't point very well. I'm gonna do this anyway though. So along this side here, this very small southern corner that's on the opposite side of 85, that is what everyone knows is Sanctuary Point. At this time, I don't believe there's any interest in that, but if there were, there would be an opportunity for expansion there. Are there questions regarding the geographic area?
At some point, I want to peel back the onion, but you keep going.
I'm ready for an onion.
Okay, so, Mr. Durham, you mentioned I had a meeting in March of last year. I did. It was me and Ms. Brock representing the county. It was Chris Elazar and Scott Mulder representing the Sewer Authority. It was Senator Tom Alexander representing the governor and the state of South Carolina. At that point, the state and the governor, McMaster, wants sewer on all interstates in South Carolina. He's all about industrial development. So we talked about it at that meeting. What was presented was this piece of paper. Let me pass 2 more down. What was presented in that meeting was this piece of paper with estimates, do all that. That was drawn up with the engineer working with Mr. Elazar. It's dated. It's about a year old now, so maybe the estimate's a little bit off. We agreed in that meeting that the sewer would only go down to the I-85 corridor. It would not spider up into any other areas. It would not ruin any farmland. It was just the I-85 corridor. There was no talk of a mile and a half from the interstate outward. It was just the I-85 corridor. So if you look at this piece of paper, did everybody get one? So the high estimate, if you go to the bottom, was $28,744,000. The low estimate was $24,744,000. So we used the high estimate. So where was the funding gonna come from? Well, the state in total was gonna put in about, what's that? 10.9 million. Blue Ridge Electric was gonna put in 2 million for exit 4. And the county's portion on the high side was $15,848,000. That's the high side. So we talked about a $20 million bond. We said, okay, whatever we don't spend, we'll go back to the debt service fund and reduce the millage and reduce taxes. But then we talked about what's going on tonight, this afternoon. We talked about what's going on with voting. Federal government and the state government is auditing us. our voting is not secure. To secure it, we need a new building for voting. It'd be on this campus, so we said we could use whatever money's left over to do that, and then whatever's left, put in the debt service fund. That was an option. That's what we talked about in the March meeting. We assured people and the public, after that meeting, when we announced this, that we were not going to spider up into the county. We were not going to ruin any farmland. It was I-85 corridor only. And Senator Thomas Alexander was all for that. That's what we agreed to. Now, if I peel back the onion, so in December of this year, we had first and final reading of Resolution 2023-21. Mr. Biles, I think you didn't remember this, but I'm sure you do now. And I'll read you the important parts. It was a resolution authorizing acceptance by Oconee County of certain easement and/or other property interests related to property located in Oconee County and positioned at or adjacent to South Carolina Highway 11 and U.S. Interstate 85 and other matters related thereto. Two important paragraphs. Whereas, Charles Cormlake et al. Owns interests, including easement interests, in certain property located adjacent to South Carolina Highway 11 in close proximity to U.S. Interstate 85. Whereas, as consideration for the transfer, seller asked that the county make commercially reasonable efforts incorporating with Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority in order to foster future sewer line connections for seller if and when such becomes viable in the subject area. Seller understands the county does not operate the subject sewer service and is controlled by the Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority, and thus the county cannot make no guarantee of future sewer service connections. Commercially reasonable efforts. So in project management, there's certain things are called scope creep. Okay, so when you manage a project, you want to avoid scope creep. Well, now that's creeping up Highway 11. Fast forward to 2.5 weeks ago, Ms. Brock, Mr. Durham and I were meeting in Ms. Brock's office about, concerning the interviewing for a new county attorney. The phone rings. It is the Director of Utilities for Chickasaw Point. Thank you. Chickasaw Point. Chickasaw Point right now has their own sewer. The utilities director said he heard that the county was going to run sewer up to Chickasaw Point. And I'm sure the Chickasaw Point folks would love to get rid of that liability and the county take it. Not sure where that came from. But it's in District 5. And so I don't know where it came from, but Ms. Brock, are there any plans to run it to Chickasaw Point?
Mr. Elliott, not that I'm aware of, and I had to relate to the director of the utilities. I took his name and number, did as much research as I could. I could not find anything that we had discussed as a council administrator. I have not found anything that had been presented. And I had to call him back and let him know that I knew of no such plans.
So also, in that meeting in March, we said on exit 1, it would be a force main. Now I hear it's gonna be gravity fed. Is that correct?
I don't have any plans for engineer drawings for that. That would be specific to topography, or topography, sorry. So a force main would be if you were to have a gravity line going down potentially, and then in order to get that wastewater back up to Golden Corner Pump Station, it would have to be a force main then, because then it would be pumped back up.
So we haven't changed it from force main to gravity fed.
There is no plan for that, no sir.
Thank you. Is there any plan to do a interstate overlay 1.5 miles inward from the sewer?
I have not been aware of any plan. I was requested a map, actually, I didn't make the map, our mapping office did, and I was aware of the map, but there's been no discussion about an overlay of such, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Ms. Brock, will your presentation cover more of his questions, or would you prefer to?
I think that's the sum of it. I think in the best interest of time, I know there's a lot of people signed up to speak. I don't mind addressing any question that I know the answer to, and if I don't know the answer, I'm happy to help provide that answer to you via email, telephone, whatever. You know, this sewer to 85 has been a vision and a mission and dream of Oconee County. I've been here 20 years. It has been a priority of county council for the last 13 years that I could find since we started doing strategic plans. I don't know of any other item or matter that this could address other than the vast number of feasibility studies that have been done, the plans that have been drawn. I was looking for some documents earlier related to as old as I could find. I found some from the late 90s that weren't super specific about where on 85, but I think the mission of getting sewer to 85 for commercial and industrial expansion specific to the 85 boundary area was the goal.
Just to touch base, so, exit 4 was the number one priority for me. Not because what was stated up here by another council member, but it was stated strictly for topography of exit 4 has the best lay of any area out there. It's been commercially for sale for quite some time. I'm definitely in favor of exit 4. Exit 2 and 1's a good priority of the state. We're helping along with that. You know, exit 1, I see it more as hotels, and hopefully a project comes online to help pay for that bond. You know, so exits 1, 2, and 4, obviously it's gonna be running close to 3. The project comes online for 3 and requests that, to me, that's usually when the county kicks in and starts talking about, okay, how much sewer are we gonna run, and what are we gonna run, and what's the benefit of it? So, you know, I think when you get down to, you know, the $25 million bond and only using for those exits, everybody sees it as a way that there's gonna be all this sewer, speculative sewer, running all over the place. And speculative sewer is what's been done at Golden Corner Commerce Park, and what wasn't done in Golden Corner Commerce Park is the grading. And if OITP, the Highway 11 Industrial Park, shows us, without grading a park, you literally have nothing that you can do with it. People will come and look at it, and they will walk away from it because of the timeline it takes. Golden Corner grading has been a priority of mine, still a priority of mine. I'm in favor of that. To me, that gives you exit 4 and your Golden Corner Commerce Park for your industry. Exit 2 and 1, you know, the state's a big fan of that. I appreciate their help in that. I know they're gonna help with some other sewer as well. So I definitely stay in favor of exit 2 and 1. What caught me off guard on that was that massive increase, going from $8 to $12 million. And, we didn't have a lot of, hey, let's think back for a minute. Let's ask the state for, you know, some more funding. Let's look at this opportunity on what 1 and 2 is, because to me, your money that's gonna pay the bond back is gonna come between exits 2 and 4 and Golden Corner Commerce Park. So to me, those are gonna be the quickest builds. But 4 wasn't a priority, 2 and 1 were. Now 4 is a priority, and I think that's good. I think that's smart of council to do that. But to go out here and just lay $25 million down, and we don't have to spend all this money at one time. I think there's a false sense, and I surely hope it's not council's thing to go, hey, let's see how quick we can spend this in 1 year. Because council needs to sit back and think through this and look at topography. And I keep hearing Anderson County involved in it. I am not in favor of working with Anderson County in that area, because I mean, it's not rocket science to go right across exit 4 and look at the topography that Anderson County has. So why would Oconee County bring Anderson County into competition with us when we need to make sure that we're getting our money back out of the project? So again, I hope that's clear.
I think there was one change I wanted to make on the exit 4 sewer, instead of running it down Doctor's Road, now that we have sewer south too, where it comes all the way up into there, that we call that the Yoder's area, that we're going all the way down and, to the Yoder's area rather than going down in the middle of, to be people's houses. So, I'm not in favor of the sprawl where we're just running lines to wherever. To me, that's not the smart conservative government that I think we all stand for up here. So just to kind of clear that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brock, would you like to address any concerns on sprawl and sewer?
Yes, sir. I'm looking at my calendar right now. Mr. Davis, your suggestion for changing the line there at the Doctor's Road was submitted to the engineering firm. I think there's a lot of rumors because I think there's an idea that there's a lot of engineering plans out there and there aren't. The engineering plans would be to we would have to do identification of the geographic area before we could send it out for engineering. So that geographic area, again, is a depiction of what was demonstrated when we went to provide the information for the bond rating agencies, and it's not necessarily a identified boundary. There may be parcels cut in pieces. Part of this map was taken from the sewer basin study that was completed last year by the Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority. Again, it's not an identified, it's not as cut and dry as these edges. A lot of it would depend on easement acquisitions, rights of ways, the availability of the desire for sewer in that specific area. I think a lot of the rumors probably came because I'm assuming, and if I'm incorrect, I apologize, that there was an assumption that engineered plans had already been created and that engineering plan was then laid on top of this map, and it's quite the opposite. This map was created first, then we go out for the engineering portion. Now, the Exit 4 engineering had already been procured by Blue Ridge Electric, and then we received the rights to have input on that engineering plan, or that reimbursement schedule to fall in for the Blue Ridge reimbursement. It comes through utility tax, and that will come back to the county. But the county would need to work with the sewer authority as a government agency to an authority agency, which is also considered to be a government agency. So that's how that happened.
Thank you.
Is this an interactive discussion?
There'll be a
or are we
public
just
comment
listening?
period afterward, yes, sir.
Oh, so we talk after you guys are done?
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody else?
So, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Mr. Davis in that I've heard the comment that the Oconee County is flush with cash. Oconee County is flush with y'all's cash, with the taxpayers' cash, and I think we gotta be very careful how we spend y'all's cash. Thank you.
One thing I wanted to touch base on too, when you talk about running speculative sewer, you kind of do your research to kind of understand where the requests have come from. So from meetings and conversations I've been in with Joint Regional Sewer Authority over the years, if you talk about our exits, Exit 4 is one of the #1 requested sewer areas, followed by Exit 2. Exit 3 doesn't exist, but Exit 2, and then way behind is Exit 1. Golden Corner's been requested a lot because of industry. So that's kind of, when we start talking about priorities, that's kind of what your look is. Those of you that don't know, I live in the Oakaway area on farmland, like a lot of other people in that area. I don't want to see massive development out in that area where it's gonna be Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. If I wanna go there, I'm gonna go there. One of the other things we need to look at is, we're not the only exits in South Carolina getting sewer. If you're paying any attention up above us, where Pendleton's running sewer out to their exit, the exit behind them's gonna get sewer in the next 24 months, it looks like. So there's a lot of other interstates, exits, that are getting sewer along with there. And if you follow into the states and all those grants, A lot of those are in there. There's a lot of speculative buildings that's been built. You know, we're not the only interstate that wasn't developed. I keep seeing that, you know, some reason we're the only place. Apparently nobody drives from exit 1 all the way to Charlotte because there's plenty of interstates that aren't developed. I've seen a lot of them do it wrong. You know, somebody said we missed out on Buc-ee's. I don't know if y'all see the trouble coming on with Buc-ee's, but Buc-ee's is a huge area, you know, and it takes up a massive area that to me is better suited for industry and things like that. So I think we gotta be smart what we're doing. You know, when we're doing our fee in lieu of, when we're getting these people online, we wanna make sure that we're getting the high profile jobs that I think all of us expect up here. But we also want to make sure that we're taking care of an area because everybody moved here because of its Oconee County. And we are not struggling for places to work. And we are not struggling. Our household medium income has gone up, which is a good thing. You can come here, get great jobs, continue to climb the corporate ladder, and you can also come here and work in the trades and make really good money. So Oconee County is a diverse workforce, which is great. We went right through COVID where a lot of other people had struggles. We are doing the right things moving forward. The last thing we need to do is start running sewer all over the place where we have not seen the needs and want for sewer. I'll be quiet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So the motion made March 24th in budget meeting, directing county staff to seek bonding, was for exits 1, 2, 4, and then it was stated that Durham Road's on the same interstate. Talk about the voter building, it was stated by Mr. Davis when he made the motion, that the bond did not include the annex facility. So that passed 4-0, and that's what the county staff and administration went forward and did, took action to seek that funding. As projects go forward, I mean, I imagine exit 4 is coming up soon, sooner than the rest of them. And each of those actions is gonna have to come back to council for a vote. It's not like somebody in the county has a blank check, just start writing it. I mean, each action is gonna come back to the full council.
I agree with that. We need to do it through council. We don't need one council member, 2 council members going out and say, well, we can do this, or we can do this, or we can do this. That's why the crowd's here tonight. They've heard so many rumors that they don't know what's going on. Let's do it all here. Let's be transparent from now on. Can't change what's happened in the past. Let's be transparent going forward. That's all I ask.
Anybody else have anything to say? All right, here none, we're gonna go to public comment. I remind everybody that you have 5 minutes to speak. When you get to 4 minutes, I'll hold up a yellow sign. It's kind of like a 1-minute warning. And then when you get to 5 minutes, hold up a stop sign. We're gonna do a little bit different because we have a little over a dozen written submissions that I'm gonna read. And so I don't have to read them all at the end with my lacking voice and maybe wear it out. I'm gonna intermit reading one, and then Miss Jennifer will call somebody forward. So I'm gonna start off with,
Mr. Chairman, real quick, I'd like for council to make a statement that we're not gonna have an extension over the 5 minutes because of the number of people.
I agree. We agree. Nobody making a motion for an extension. All right, so you heard his hard, fat rule, 5 minutes. And all these written ones should be less than 5 minutes, they're not too long. So I'm gonna begin off with reading the first one. This comes from Miss Martha Steele of Seneca. It says, Oconee County Council members, I am very concerned about the available property throughout Oconee County and its possible development and the resulting impact on this development without stronger land management and development standards than are in effect at present. Lack of strong development standards could have disastrous consequences on increased traffic congestion and road safety, sewer infrastructure, water, and costly tax burdens for any needed new infrastructure. Please work with the Planning Commission to create and implement strong standards for all new developments in Oconee County. Thank you for considering my concerns.
Mr. Matt Alexander.
Hello,
I've never done this before, so I'm nervous, and I'm certainly not a public speaker, so bear with me. I'm Matt Alexander, and except for my military service, I've lived here all my life. I've been involved in manufacturing in one form or another for almost 30 years. When I moved back here as a young man, I looked long and hard for a good paying job with good benefits. It was hard, but I was blessed with an opportunity, and because of that, I've been able to provide for my family and have a comfortable life. Sadly, that opportunity was not in Oconee County. I know a lot of people are afraid of what sewer expansion and new industry may bring. I get that. The unknown can be scary, and I get it. But what I can say to that, let's ride by Borg Warner or Schneider Electric. It's not a wasteland. It's not an industrial wasteland there. Go by the 3 Michelin plants in Anderson. They aren't polluting our rivers, and they haven't made undesirable neighborhoods pop up. There's still a lot of rural land around them. In fact, one of them surrounded on 3 sides by pasture. I would just love to see the county wisely bring in entities that will provide the most opportunity for the most people. Places that will provide opportunity long after we're all gone. My son's in the military now. I'd love nothing more than for him to be able to come home and find a good paying job, several good paying jobs to choose from for all of our youth to have that opportunity. It can be done, and it can be done right. Thank you all for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. themselves from this process, and if so, which councilmen were advised? In the event the county attorney cannot or will not respond, I ask the councilman state whether they were so advised by the county attorney as to whether they were warned of the stated potential conflict and the need to recuse. Thank you, Linda McLean Love, District 1.
Mr. Chris Ruin?
You can't start until I start talking, because I gotta say thank you. So first of all, John's my councilman. John's been in finance for years. He understands what I'm talking about. Julian, you guys, I think you will, but here's the thing. This money is our money, and John said it. Okay, now I hear what McMaster's talking about, but it isn't McMaster's money, it's our money, okay? My background, I got a bachelor's in accounting economics, got an MBA, 30 years in GE, 10 years in 10 plus businesses and 11 locations. 10 years consulting on large initiatives in trouble. I've done plant startups, transfers of work to new locations, acquisitions and divestitures, and I've scouted for new sites for GE. We have many competing priorities in this county for taxpayer funding right now. We've got Sewer South, we got sewer fixes, one guy said that was $50 million. I don't believe it, I think it's probably closer to 75 or 100 million. That's current infrastructure issues we have right now. We got problems with roads, and there are a lot of other things we can think about. So we're talking about spending millions of dollars in Sewer South to attract businesses, and that's what I've heard, and that's what Ms. Durham has said, and that's a good initiative. The issue I have is we got a crap track record with Golden Corner Commerce Park. We spent millions of dollars, we have nothing. Now, my question is, if I want to trust in what we're going to do, what lessons did we learn? Okay, so we have millions of dollars and no return, what are we doing different? And I'll tell you what really caught my attention tonight is we're talking about doing things. We already got funding and we're trying to figure out where we're going to put the money and what we're going to do with it. I would never, ever, if you guys came before me and asked for money, unless you had a hard plan, because I was competing with everybody else that wanted money, I wouldn't give you a dime because I don't even know what we're getting, okay? Now, I don't see that we've done any due diligence with hard data to what the return's gonna be, if we're even gonna get our money back, or it's gonna be a Golden Corner Commerce Park. And I don't think I'm wrong. Now, Mr. Durham has talked about these $40 to $60 an hour jobs. That $40 an hour on the low range is $83,000 a year in salary. Well, that's not the 40% benefits that the company's paying. So when you think about that, that's $117,000 a year they're gonna pay for some employee coming in here and manufacturing. They're not gonna pay that kind of money. On the high side, you got 125 just going to the guy, and then you've got $175,000 per person they're paying. And I don't know where that's coming from because you've got 4 counties you're competing with. You want tier 1 Fortune 500 companies if you want to pay that money. You don't want third tier, light manufacturing or whatever. Those companies will only choose the least risky areas. I know that because I was the first one to start looking at it before I'd even pass the list, okay? Those companies have diverse teams and leaders. Now here's something you guys need to think about. You've got women running these companies, women running these plants. You've got African Americans. They're looking at things, and then we talked about it, a year or so ago, about the sanctuary for the unborn. You put something like that explosive on a list for somebody to pick a location, they're gonna look and say, what the hell am I gonna? I will never bring my people in because I won't get my leadership team to come in because they're gonna say the spouses, I'm not moving there. That is true, because I would look at that, I'd take them off the list immediately. So I see this as extreme high-risk investment for taxpayers. And I don't think that we've done the due diligence. I think you're gonna have a problem with the labor. And I will tell you right now, this is not political, I'm telling you the facts. This will be a red flag for me, for any company risking millions. Now, I want to tell you something about these diverse companies, and I'll pass this out to you guys. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't copy. Now, I want you to see what's going to make, the first thing somebody's going to look up when they're looking at a location, they're going to see. This, I saw on the page today out of Mountain Rest. Now, you tell me what diverse leader is going to look at that when they got 50 locations to choose from. What are they going to say? They're going to take us off the list. We won't even get close. I'm telling you the facts. And the people in the back need to hear. This came out of the Mountain Rest District. You can add Christian and male to that list. In the U.S., okay, can you read it to everybody then?
Just a minute, it'll be in the backup material.
Okay, you guys need to see this. Thanks.
May I make an announcement, please, Mr. Chairman? I apologize. So our live stream was interrupted. It is no longer live streaming under Oconee County special meeting. If anyone wants to go back and review this at a later time, it will be fixed tomorrow. Tonight, it is live streaming under Oconee County Aeronautics. I am updating Facebook if you want to see anybody that may be watching.
Do we need a recess to correct anything?
It's not, it won't allow us to
Okay.
recess while we're streaming.
Okay.
To correct it while we're streaming.
All right.
I'm putting it on the county Facebook page right now, but I just wanted to make the announcement in case anybody wanted to take this and that out to any of their friends.
It'll still show meeting live on
It
your
does, it
account,
does.
so.
And it does say Aeronautics Commission.
Okay, so I got a microphone. Hopefully everybody can hear me a little bit better. So this, I'm going to read another letter here. This says, please arrange to have the following comment read at the county council meeting tomorrow evening. There are thousands of acres available for property development throughout the county, particularly along the corridor of Highway 130 and Highway 183, where there are over 3,500 acres currently available and under consideration for development. This does not include a similar number of development properties in Pickens County along Highway 133 that will impact Oconee's roads and traffic congestion. I strongly recommend that the county council work with the planning commission to implement stronger land management and development standard ordinances and/or regulations. Pickens County is already recognizing these requirements and has recently announced such standards. For Oconee County, we need to be proactive in protecting against poor development, costly tax burdens, and new infrastructure, sewer, water, roads, landfill, etc., and increasing traffic congestion and road safety concerns. Thank you very much, Jerry Yantis.
Mr. Jim Mann.
Good evening, council. Jim Mann, for the record, District 2 taxpayer. First, I want to thank Councilman Davis for making the suggestion on December 5th to hold this meeting. Secondly, I want to thank Councilman Elliott for getting the motion to the floor and holding it there to have this meeting voted on. And then third, I want to thank this entire council for voting unanimously to hold this meeting. Since the first reading of the $25 million bond ordinance last July, many people have commented from this podium who in one way or the other questioned the reason and justification behind putting Oconee County taxpayers $25 million in debt and doing so without going through a referendum. The wording used in the bond ordinance started with authorizing the issuance of a general obligation bond and ended with providing for borrowing in anticipation of issuance of a bond, not to exceed $25 million. Well, the wording in the council discussion led most to believe, including myself and apparently maybe two councilmen, that the vote being taken was actually to float the loan application on the bond market for the purpose of receiving bids. Following that line of thought, once the bids came back in, they would be presented to the council for discussion with information being made public so that the taxpayers could review and offer comment. Then a subsequent vote would follow to approve the terms, conditions, and payback schedule and sign the bond agreement. But for whatever reason, that didn't happen. What did happen was, following the third reading, this council voted unanimously to approve moving forward. Today, we read in the Seneca Journal that the county signed closing paperwork on November 2nd and received the funds that day. So we've been sitting on them. All that occurred without public knowledge of what details were contained within the county's bond application package or paperwork. Still didn't see that tonight. What the terms, conditions, and payback schedule was for the loan. What the total cost of payback is to the taxpayers for the life of the loan. And what the financial burden or impact is on the average taxpayer. How and where is the money going to be spent? We heard a little bit. How will the spending of this money impact our lives, good or bad? If a return on investment has been considered, where is it? Can we see it? I could be mistaken, but I don't remember seeing any $25 million bond items in the current 2024 budget. I believe there are a lot of people here tonight who are also deeply concerned about the negative impact that spending this money to run sewer north of 85 will have on our local farmers and agricultural communities. The South Carolina poultry industry represents 40% of all agriculture in South Carolina. Oconee County is the #1 poultry and egg producer in the state. We all accept the fact that Oconee County is going to continue to grow, but it's not the job of this county council to speed growth along, especially not in unnatural or unattractive ways, and it's widely known that counties can control industrial and residential growth by limiting sewer expansion. Up to this point, the growth in Oconee County has been mostly organic. The transition from agricultural to textile to manufacturing, recreation, tourism, and service industries, these changes have not been driven by hasty county council actions. Those changes occurred over a timeline that was within the capability of most communities to positively embrace and absorb, while not taking away from our roots and the beauty of the landscape here. Whether it was J.P. Stevens, Beacon Mills, Duke Power, U.S. Engine Valve, or the many others, those business decisions were based on long-term viability studies and not because of quick fixes offered by county councils courting the highest bidder, especially in a market that might dry up as quickly as it appeared. The chairman implied that the 2024 budget process has been the most transparent on record. I don't think all the people are here tonight, or many that would agree with that suggestion. I think most, in fact, are here hoping to hear something that they could wrap their heads around. I view the fast-track process used by some members on this council to flip the 2024 budget on its head and secure the $25 million bond as being intentional, unethical, and I would even say potentially illegal. A majority of Oconee County residents were left without a voice and excluded from any awareness about the bond decision-making and approval process. It seems this meeting tonight only confirms a lot of that in my mind. The leadership and authority on this council is not listening to the majority of people in Oconee County. I'm concerned they're ushering in a period of uncontrolled spending, carelessness, and setting course towards a speedy departure from what most of us know as Oconee County today. Thank you.
Okay, this is as Hetero Chairman and distinguished council members. For years now, Oconee County's South End has gone without necessary funding earmarks, both in terms children deserve when it comes time to play ball or soccer, but also basic services that allows families like yours and mine access proper sanitation systems at home or work every day, the latter being something many take granted until they don't have them. This is from Grady Moorhead.
Mr. Kevin Ramey.
Good afternoon, Council. I appreciate y'all giving me a few minutes to speak this evening. I am a District 5 citizen. I've been there for 27 years pretty much. Pay taxes down there, and I work in Seneca, and I've been working at a plant in Seneca for 28 years. It's been a great job. I've been able to take care of my family. I raised 2 boys. My wife was able to stay at home. We'll take care of those boys, and we're having problems hiring people. We have 8 open positions we have tried to hire for 2.5 years. We'll hire a few, we'll lose a few. We cannot get that balance because we do not have the workforce. Now, a lot of this planning is going on for industry down on the south end of Fairplay. What does Fairplay want? Do they want this? Have they asked for it? I haven't heard anyone ask for it. There may be a few, but for the most part, I don't think that's what we're after. Now, Mr. Elliott, you spoke a little bit ago about sewer expanding out. I spoke with Mr. Martin last night, and the way he talked to me, it was going to expand about 2 miles out into the community. So that's my council member telling me that. So how am I not supposed to believe it? So when we do that, we open it up that if that is a gravity-fed sewer, these developers can come in, build multiple housing developments. That's going to increase our traffic flow. You're looking at 2.5, 3 cars per household. Increase all that traffic. You're going to have grocery stores. There's going to be more gas stations. Then we're going to have to pay more taxes to increase our infrastructure for vehicles. We're going to have emergency services for these people. We're going to have more police because, you know, the crime's going to uptick when you got more population. So in my opinion, it's a bad deal for everybody down there in that area. A lot of folks have talked tonight about what the cost is. When me and Mr. Hart talked, this $25 million bond, what's it going to cost in return? What are we going to have to pay back? The number I've heard is around $53 million. How long is that going to take to pay back? And who's going to pay it back? We are. These industries are not going to be paying it back that much. They're going to have fee in lieu of deals to where they can come in, and that's what you have to do to get these people to come in. I understand that, but it's going to be the taxpayers paying it. And I'd ask you to consider not to go forward with this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I am unable to attend the county council meeting tonight. Please raise for these comments to be read this evening. Due to the ongoing development growth in Oconee County, I strongly urge the county council to direct the Oconee County Planning Commission to implement a stronger set of development standards in our county. Recently, Pickens County has done so. The obvious effect on Oconee County is that developers will naturally migrate to Oconee County. With the less strict standards in place, we are vulnerable not only less quality development, but increased density, increased traffic, increased safety risk, etc. in Oconee County. It's time to see Oconee County invest in new and more current development standards. Any new investment infrastructure should be spread throughout all districts in the county. That's Gary Owens from Salem.
Mr. Jody Gollin. Sorry.
Thank you, council, for planning this meeting. Kudos for transparency. Later is better than never, so we appreciate that. It helps ease the mind of your constituents, and it's given us an opportunity to speak. And obviously, I hope it dispels some of these rumors. You know, lack of transparency makes people think about corruption. It makes people that are against virtually everything, there's a term for that, citizens against virtually everything, cave people. And it creates an environment for economic development, which has to be behind closed doors now because of all these fee in lieu of taxes deals, and that's just the way we live right now. But as a result of that, already people are more cynical. It creates division and distrust. So I found out some stuff about the $25 million bond tonight, more than I knew. But let me tell you, sewer is not the only tool to be used to control development in a county. As I spoke at the town hall that 2 of the council members attended recently, when you talk about infrastructure, you have to talk about the gross neglect of infrastructure in this county and in South Carolina, where we had the top road system in the country 30 years ago, and it went down to nothing, and now we're having to pay. At the town hall, we talked about ARP money, American Rescue Plan money, where $32 million came from the Biden administration, and and Congress to fund infrastructure improvements. And one of the unanswered questions we had at the town hall, which you three gentlemen didn't attend, so you haven't heard this, is if you didn't have that money, what were your plans? What were you going to do? It's our infrastructure, okay? Sewer, without development standards, is not going to solve our development issues or preventing the sewer from coming. We have got, it's like an oxymoron, folks, where you say, I don't want uncontrolled growth, the traffic, the infrastructure limitations, schools, we don't want that, and density, we don't want that. But our county council has no tools right now to do anything about it because we don't even have the most basic development standards in this county. Our corridors into this county have got to be protected because quality of life is important to us residents who've been here all our life. As you can tell from my accent, I have been, and I'm proud of it. So we need development standards. Government has certain tools so that we can stop over-density development, that we can manage development. But we're against zoning. We're against plan development. We're against all these things. So we've got to do something where it all works together. We can't just use vetoing the sewer to stop it. So I would encourage everybody on council to think about that, because every meeting like this that I come to, and others with private citizens, tell me, from very conservative people, tell me, we've got too much growth. We got these housing developments and causing traffic problems and everything. So ironically, the very people who don't want people moving into this county and are opposed to government having tools to help manage development. And I'm not talking about draconian tools. I'm talking about the very basics. So you can't be against virtually everything and expect government to do something about it. And government, you can't expect developers not to want to build a bunch of houses if you don't have any control of that. You know, if you want federal government to be smaller, local and state government has to step up and be a little bigger than they are now. Face facts. And I think the $25 million bond is a step that you're taking to say we're going to be responsible for this. We're not going to wait for Washington to send it. So our corridors are important, and I'd like to see us make sure that we maintain those corridors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garland. Okay, dear Mr. Chairman and council members, I am writing to express my concern about the lack of investment in a local community in the southern Oconee County. As a single parent working 2 jobs, it is challenging to commute to Anderson for work, and I believe that we need more locally based job opportunities with better pay to improve our quality of life. The proposed sewer project could be a step forward to achieving this goal and ensuring a brighter future for ourselves and our children. That's Miss Jean Hightower.
Luke Moore.
Good evening, council. I'm Luke Moore. Everybody pretty well knows me. Got a few questions, obviously, that I've asked multiple times about where this money's going to go. I want to know where every dollar of the money that we're going to have to pay back is going to go. We should know. It's our money. It should be very transparent. But it hadn't been. But either way, I'm going to talk about a different angle of this thing that everybody else hadn't said so far. From a development standpoint, when you bring in industry, which is great, we did good jobs, but you need to take that I-85 corridor, which you said in the meeting could be defined by this council, right? That 85 corridor needs to be held small, not 2 miles out like you wanting it, not 2 miles out. It needs to be held small to keep the industry along the interstate. So what's going to happen is, right now, if you look up our unemployment rate and you look up our population, we've got less unemployed people than jobs available right now. So when you bring in industry, there's nobody here to fill those jobs, not enough people, which means by common sense that you're going to have to import people to fill those jobs. So when you import people, we also do not have a surplus of housing sitting here available, ready to go. Once again, common sense. You're going to have people coming in, you're going to need houses for them people to live in. They're not sitting here ready to go. So what that means is there's going to have to be some pretty serious development to fill up a bunch of industry. Now, when you go to doing that, as a developer, when you look out, you see, okay, people want to be close to their job, between their job and shopping. They want to be close to work, and we want to look to where we can make the most bang for our buck. So what you do is you look and you say, okay, this land does not have to be cleared. There's no trees on it. It's fairly flat, tons of road frontage, so it's perfect land to develop. We got no development standards, so they can put them on 0.18 acres and just run sewer right there, and it'll be just fine. So that is what happens. You put a little bit of blood in the water, and the sharks come. The people who ain't in the construction industry don't seem to understand this. You can sit up there with your jobs and think, no, it's just the business, it's just the business. But you got to think about the numbers of how many people are available to work those jobs, where they're going to live since they're not here. And also, if you put it down in the bottom corner, when you draw a circle around that little section, that's where you're going to pull your employees from. If it was in the middle of the county, that circle would be completely in the county, and you would pull more people from Oconee. But when you put it down the edge, you're going to pull people from Livonia, Anderson, other places. So it's not going to be as much Oconee as what it could be. I'm not against the development as far as the industry, but I do want it restricted to right near the interstate and not out in the farms. This should be a common sense thing. You can't eat your money, and you don't trade everything for money. But I want to know where this money's going that we're going to have to pay back. If we had that money already earmarked, I want to know where that money that was earmarked and went back in, where it's going to be used. Because now, instead of paying for it with the money we had, now we're going to be paying for it with the money we borrowed plus the interest. So you just cost us a bunch of money, which is not conservative. I like to be conservative. I don't like to, if I got $100 in my pocket, I don't go borrow $100. It don't make no sense, because now I got to pay back $200 when I could have just spent $100. Now, also, in the OJRSA meeting, Jamie Gilbert said that we having to target smaller industries, because we have a capacity issue. He said we can't go for 1 million gallons a day because we don't have capacity. So it has to be limited to 400,000 per day or under. So we can't go after the big boys anyways. We're spending all these millions of dollars and can't go after the big industry. Not smart. Also, they said that with that, Amanda said in the meeting that the $25 million was specifically for Sewer South. The agenda here says designing, acquiring, constructing, installing equipment, rehabilitating various capital projects, which is not what she said in that meeting. So I want to know which is true. Did y'all change it after that meeting? Is that what happened? She also said that it could change layout, pressurized to gravity, or with just a conversation with you guys. That is not transparency when you're having it all back there behind closed doors and won't talk to us. And I've asked you multiple times on your page and you won't even respond on your Facebook page, and I've been respectful on it. But either way, we got a major issue. We can't handle the industry because of capacity issues with the sewer system we got already. And they're going to have a new something up and running in 7 to 10 years, they said in that meeting. I've got the recording for anybody who's interested in it. I FOIA'd the thing. But either way, let's use a little common sense.
Okay, I would like to see the county council meeting address the following, as I am not able to attend due to prior commitments. Line item budget on where the $25 million will be spent. Who has final approval of each line item expense? Can future bond proposals only be approved by a vote of county residents? Is the county council willing to work with the planning commission to implement stronger land management development standard ordinances and regulations? and how is the county planning to control rapid development, cost tax burdens for new infrastructure, sewer, water, roads, landfill, etc., and increasing traffic congestion and road safeties? That's Jim Corey.
Andy White.
Good afternoon, council and everyone. We come up here last year when we first heard the Sewer South project was coming to pass. And we had a lot of questions and concerns. And we left with more questions and concerns than we had coming. I've been speaking to several different council members and other people trying to get answers for the past year. And I hate it had to come to a meeting a year later to get some kind of transparency. It's always asking for. And when I first came out, we didn't know how far sewer was going. We didn't know if it was going to go into Anderson County and we was going to tie them on. Nobody could give an answer. And I actually have a map on my phone that was drew by Oconee County. I don't know who drew it, but I can show y'all a copy of it that has a 2.5 mile overlay. It has a mile and a half, and a 2.5 mile. And when you go by that blue line, that's taking out about 350 acres of ground that we have leased that we farm right now. And another concern I have is the Durham farm. I've heard that referenced several times. Durham Road, exit 3. We have about 80% of that Durham Road leased out. We farm it. And the landowners that I've spoke to don't have intentions of selling. So I guess my question is, why are we taking tax dollars, my tax dollars, everybody in this room's tax dollars, the whole county tax dollars, and investing it on properties that may not ever come up for sale? Everything's on a speculation. And also my other concern is the executive meetings y'all have. I've heard several comments in these meetings that you don't want the comments brought out to the public that happens in these special and private meetings. I think anytime this council or any organization is dealing with money, especially taxpayers' money, every organization I've ever been with had full transparency when it comes to the money. I'd just like for y'all to be more transparent. I appreciate y'all having this meeting, like I say again. And we need smart growth in this county. I understand we need development. I'm not against Sewer South. I'm not against development. I think that's been a miscommunication from the get-go here. We need the industries coming in, I understand that. But when we don't have the people to fill the jobs that we have an issue. I know I'm echoing what other people's already said. Another issue I see, all I've heard is we need $60 per hour jobs. When the industry comes in, they may have 15 people that's gonna make $60 per hour. Then you got 1,000 making 15 to 25. How does that work? Why are we gonna throw away an industry in this county that has invested billions with a B in this county? On my farm, my family has invested $4.6 million in this county. I know of other poultry farmers that have invested over $15, $16 million in this county. And all I hear from other people is that we need to move out of this county and get out of everybody's way so we can develop the whole county. I was born and raised here. My family has been here for 4 generations. I just don't see how you can take an industry and throw it away on a hope that a new industry is going to come in when the industries that are here, your timber, your ag, everything that is here is putting every dollar back into this county and investing into your county. Just keep this in mind going forward. Thank you. Please continue to be transparent with the public on this issue.
Thank you. Okay, for too long, our district's needs have gone unaddressed, illustrated poignantly by both council member District 4's inaction and our recreation centers banned from county sports. It is time to focus on bringing job opportunities closer to home and ensure that we plan for the future of our community. That's Sonia Land.
Larry Day.
Council members.
my issue is relatively small potatoes compared to this, the subject of this meeting. Specifically, I wanted to talk about the inadequacy of a proposed water line repairs performed by Seneca Light and Water on portions of Delphi Drive in Port Santorini. I've lived on Delta Court in Port Santorini for 8 years. Portions of my home were built in 1975, and there are 3 very large water line repairs on Delta Court, which has 6 houses. As part of a physical therapy for a recent back problem, I walk all of the roads in Port Santorini, and there's about 2 miles of paved roads. So I walk that area, those 2 miles, about 6 times a week. I have 2 major objections to the proposed work. The materials list for IFB 23-002 from Seneca Light and Water does not provide enough materials to replace all of the water lines in Port Santorini. I counted major water line repairs, which are denoted by an asphalt patch on a road. Major, in my opinion, is more than 25 square feet. So I counted 67 major water line repairs, and approximately 22 of these repairs are in an area that Seneca Light and Water has earmarked for repair. There are approximately 45 other major water line repairs on other sections of the road. So that's 2/3 of the major repairs would not be replaced by new water lines. Seneca Light and Water, their material list on their contract, the request for bids, called for 2,400 linear feet of pipes. So 2,400 feet, 2 miles of roadway, about 10,000 linear feet. That's about 1/4 of the water lines. Approximately 78%, Seneca Light and Water says that they would need to fix 11 driveways. And if you count houses on the opposite side of the road, 22 houses. There's roughly 100 dwellings in Port Santorini, so about 3/4 of all the parcels in Port Santorini would still be relying on water lines that were put in 50 years ago. So my second major concern is that there's really no indication about the scope of repaving that would need to be done. So it's my understanding that Oconee County has said that they have the resources to repave, but I can't see why Oconee County would repave our roads, which I don't know when they were repaved most recently. I can tell you that the center lines have faded to total obscurity. It's been that long. So it seems unlikely to me that Oconee County would want to repave the roads when such a large number of our houses are serviced by 50-year-old water lines. So in conclusion, I'd like Seneca Light and Water and Oconee County to coordinate their efforts to provide a comprehensive solution to the water line replacement in Port Santorini and ensure that the water line replacement and paving efforts ensure that all the water lines are replaced. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Have no more.
Dwight Baker.
Walking slow, I had a little surgery Friday. little paintwork in the left leg. It's very interesting to listen to everybody's position. Just a little history on speculative sewer. Highway 11 was built back in the 70s. William B. Orchid bought all that property down there. He sold the Welcome Center to the state of South Carolina. And DeVoe Blacks and I got a contract to buy Parkview East and a first right of refusal on Parkview West, which is now Heritage Shores. Just to go back, I was on the board of directors, not board of directors, but at Chickasaw Point back then, and lived there in the 80s. But in the 70s, the intent of the county council, it wasn't a county council then, but the county was going to bring a sewer plant along Rock Creek on Highway 11. That was the intent. Ultimately, a previous county council has done the Commerce Park. I wasn't in favor of it. I thought they should have continued what they started to do when they built Highway 11 and bringing the sewer down that way. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a little history. I was probably in high school when Orkin bought that property, but we bought it in the 80s. Matter of fact, some of the county councilmen he knew we had a first right of refusal on Heritage Shores, and they put a bid in, and we had to exercise that first right of refusal, and they didn't think DeVoe had the depth to do it, but we ended up doing it. And it was members of the community, Seneca, Walhalla, that put that group together trying to push us out. And finally, somebody said, well, what's going on down there? Because there's a lot of activity back then. And they said, it's a couple of guys trying to do something without us. That's the county's position on it. But I want to get away from that because I'm retired now. But Oconee County is blessed with rivers, waterfalls, lakes, mountains, forest land, hiking trails, parks, blessed with recreation, tourism, vacation, retirement communities. It's one of the prettiest counties and one of the best assets the state of South Carolina has. And the corridor along Interstate 85 is one of the greatest assets that Oconee County has. There's very little fertile cropland. It was all covered up with the lakes. Really the fertile farmland in this county was along the rivers and streams of Oconee County. What we ended up with was the high ground. It was good for cattle, chicken houses, hog farms, that type of thing. I mean, there's some farming going on. There's some crops that can be raised, but that's the majority of it. The remaining farmland, it is good for cattle and chickens in what I said, but it's also sustainable manufacturing and industry. And it's an asset that the county has. I think it's time for this to happen, not because I don't have any dog in this fight. I just think it's time for it to happen and quit treating Southern Oconee County as second-class citizens or second cousins, and treat us down there, or the people. Yes, it's going to increase the value of some people's lands, and some people's going to sell it, and some people aren't. They don't have to, but they can develop it. The real question is this. The problem is the $25 million bond. That's the problem. The question is, if it's diverted from what it was to be used for Sewer South, who profits from that? And I'm leaving because I don't feel well.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Ben Thrasher.
My name's Ben Thrasher.
I am a little bit different here in this room. I'm kind of in between the middle. I'm a poultry grower and a cattle grower. I'm also a land developer. We do a lot of subdivisions. We grade for them, we put the sewer, we put the water in. There's some hard truths in this county. We're in a place where everybody wants to move to. Everybody wants to live here. And it's a good place. But at the same time, the agricultural side, the hard truth is, whether it's one house or 100 houses, the land is disappearing. And I'm for sewer south, I'm for development, I'm also for agriculture, but if you don't own the land and you're renting the land or leasing the land, well, you're not going to be sustained as a farmer for very long. You have no choice. The people have the right to sell their land, develop the land, get the money they want out of it. Just for instance, I have 70 acres in Seneca, and I've got a letter of intent to sell this property once I finish my development. I'm going to make almost $3 million off of it, out of about a $400,000 investment. Now, who in the world has land in Fairplay that can make that kind of turn on their investment that wouldn't do it? It's going to happen. Eventually, it's going to happen. There's nothing you can do to stop it. One house or 100, it's coming. Well, for instance, in Seneca, on Wells Highway, there's nearly 700 homes are going to be built this year, or developed this year. Now that's people coming here. If we don't have the people already to fill the jobs, then those people are coming here to live in those homes. Some way or form or fashion, it's going to happen. Also, just on Conross Creek Road, where mine is, there's 70 more homes. On Friendship Valley Road, there's a 97-house subdivision that's going to be underway in the springtime. On Friendship Valley Road in Friendship, Miss Garland lives on that road. There's a 97-house subdivision going to be built right there, starting in the spring. That land I happen to currently lease. I have 40 head of cattle on it. Well, it's inevitable because I don't own the land, that if that man decides to sell it, which he has, and he's already got a contract on it, that I have to move my cows off and I lose that 97 acres. I have to move my cows around or either sell them. But the point of the matter is, you're going to bring sewer down to exit 1, 2, and 4. You're going to get industry in there. And whether you like it or not, people have to move there. So you're going to have some urban sprawl. And so you'll have some gravity sewer, and you'll have people living there. So if you don't own the land and you rent or lease, you might as well just go to buying it, because that's the only way you're going to stop it. And so I'm for sewer south, I'm for development, I'm for ag, I'm for both of them, for all of it. But, you can't come up here and have one side or the other. Everybody's got to look at, there's people building homes every day. Those people need to have a right to make a living too, whether you're ag or a construction worker. So my statement is, I'm for sewer south, I'm for the development, hotels, jobs, restaurants, industry, whatever you can put down there. And people just, if you're in the ag business, it's in upper South Carolina, the ag is dying. So it is what it is. That's my take on it all. Thank you.
Bob Hoover.
Council, my name is Bob Hoover. The reason I'm here tonight is I'm going to read a letter into the record for my friend Mike Husky, who wanted to be here tonight but could not. And I'm glad that he took the time to do this. Mike is eminently qualified in this area. I'll give you his biography and background, and then I'll read his statement. Mike spent 40 years in manufacturing operations and supply chain for both the Tier 1 automotive industry and the building products industry. 25 of those years he had multi-plant responsibility as vice president and or director of at multiple companies. He's recently retired from Fortune Brands. You may know the Fiberon decking brand. That's one of their many brands. But he didn't sit still for long, and he's currently out in Montana doing some consulting work for United Forestry Products on a multi-plant optimization. Mike's also the executive committeeman for the New Hope precinct of the OCRP. Now I'll just read his statement verbatim. My last assignment as VP of Strategic Projects for Fortune Brands was the site selection and construction of a mega facility for the Fiberon brand composite decking business. This facility is a major investment and vitally important to the future growth of the business. It's a 750,000 square foot facility and it will employ 400 people. The manufacturing site is in Columbia, Tennessee on 135 acres outside of Nashville. The team spent 2 years on the site selection process. We were focused on two primary drivers of cost-benefit analysis: labor availability and freight lanes. When you analyze most preferred sites, these two will be in the top 5 of the items to consider. Rail and/or access to major interstates are primary factors related to freight. Having to navigate 2-lane roads and municipal traffic is costly and time-consuming. This is why you see most industrial property next to major highways. The Oconee I-85 corridor is ideally placed to satisfy any company's freight and logistics needs. This north-south corridor connects to all other lanes going northeast, southeast, midwest, and west. Labor is also important. When analyzing labor and skill levels for a particular location, we look at many factors: high school graduation rates, population growth, young people, whether they're moving out of Oconee County or staying, proximity to tech schools, universities, union activity, training subsidies, and state and local incentives. The site, we look for electrical power availability. The Columbia, Tennessee site requirement was for 39 megawatts. The TVA and local power company worked hard to accommodate us because the economic impact study revealed the growth in tax revenue from the corporate taxes and the labor-generated taxes were of great benefit to the city and the county. Natural gas supply was also important to this facility. It was made available within 800 feet of the building. The local water and sewer company service was important to the operation as well. There were some negotiations on water usage and sewer discharge, but the upside to the community for providing these were readily obvious. If any of these utilities were unavailable to the site or were cost prohibitive, which includes uncompetitive surcharges and/or impact fees, the plant would have been built in Springfield, Missouri instead of Tennessee. That was our backup location if our priority items could not be met. I'm going to reread that because he put it in bold. If any of these utilities were unavailable to the site or were cost prohibitive or uncompetitive, which includes uncompetitive surcharges and/or impact fees, the plant would have been built elsewhere. It's worth noting that the hourly workers at the Fiberon plant in Columbia, Tennessee will be making between $25 and $35 an hour to start. If Oconee County wishes to balance its future between industrial and recreational industries, sewer south is an imperative. No industry will build in the Oconee I-85 corridor without it. The fact that Georgia Tech, University of Georgia, Clemson, ICAR, Tri-County Tech are all nearby also makes the Oconee I-85 corridor very attractive. If we want good jobs for our children and grandchildren, there has to be a balanced approach to future development, and development requires investment. Thank you.
Thank you.
David McMahon.
Gentlemen of the council, thank y'all for allowing me to speak. Chairman, is it all right if I kind of talk to the side a little bit? I'd like to address some to the public of some information I've got.
That's fine.
Thank you. My name's David McMahon. I come tonight to address agricultural issues because I know it's a big concern for the agriculture community. And I got a surprise tonight. I didn't know this, but I was relieved to hear Mr. Davis point out, and also confirmed by Mrs. Brock, that there's not going to be any spider connections of the sewer down there at Sewer South on the I-85 corridor. Am I correct? Did I say that correctly?
I believe you did there.
Thank you. Also, I believe I heard Mr. Davis say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Davis, that possibly $20 million was a figure thrown out to help the Sewer South go at one point, maybe March of last year. Am I correct, is what you said?
We're not gonna get that one back.
I'm sorry. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not misrepresenting anything. It's going to cost a lot of money no matter what. to go to Sewer South. Now, I think that everybody on this council right here is pro-farm. I really do. I can tell you about an overzealous county council in 2010 that was against farming. I've got everything I'm saying right here with emails that I wasn't supposed to get. My attorney got them for me about how they were wanting to restrict farming throughout this county. Matter of fact, there's a farmer in this room right now, I'm not gonna mention names, that was actually advocating top-down zoning, which would have been very detrimental to the farming community all through this county. But anyway, this right here is the reason why I'm saying is I went to court to defend my farming rights. I had to. I shouldn't have spent my money like I did back then, but I did to, and that helped everybody throughout the state as far as farming issues. Now, again, I'm relieved for the folks down in District 5 that do have farms, that they're not worried because there's a lot of scare tactics out there, a lot of dirty politics playing, a lot of rumors going around. Somebody said that the compaction test wasn't going to be right at the Sewer South. That's all fiction. It's not true. We've got to stop the scare tactics, folks. And I just wanted to give some information to farmers in the audience right now. This right here is a bill that's sitting in the committee in the House of Representatives right now. It's called the Right to Grow Act. Some of you farmers have probably already heard about this. Bill Sandifer, I think, District 5, he represents District 5 down there. Contact him. Tell him to get this thing out of committee. It's right here. It protects farmers more than it ever has. It's putting teeth in the Right to Farm Act. When I had to go defend my farming rights back in 2010, I walked in with a very smart attorney and this right here, the South Carolina Right to Farm Act. If I hadn't had that Right to Farm Act, I don't know what my property would have been designated at the time. Thank goodness we had this. This act that's in a committee right now will actually enforce and make it stronger, the South Carolina Right to Farm Act. So my suggestion to the farming community in District 5, along down there in Fairplay, Oakway, there's agricultural zoning that you can apply for. Get involved with your state. These folks right here are not going to hurt you farming. Not any 5 of these individuals are going to hurt your farming. The state can help you. The state, if you get down there and talk to Bill Sandifer, get him on board with this Right to Grow Act, you can actually keep, or let me put it this way, you can slow down development, which no sewer into these private places is a good thing for the farmers, okay? So that's a good thing. But folks, let me tell you, Atlanta is coming down I-85. It's coming. You ought to live where I live, in the Kiwi area, if you want development. You ought to live under the overlays and stuff. That's why there's hardly no farming left in that part of the state, or that part of the county anymore. So people in District 5, protect yourself. Get involved with the Right to Grow Act.
1 minute, Mr. McMahon.
Okay. And get involved with that, protect yourself, and just remember, growth is coming. I'm not sure what we can do about it. It's a hard question, but protect yourself, and that's all I got to say. Thank y'all.
Holly Whiten.
Hello, my name is Holly Whiten, and I'm a 4th-generation farmer, and I work in a 4K classroom in an elementary school. Agriculture has been a part of my life since birth. I grew up on my family's row crop and poultry farm, and I have seen firsthand the economic impact it has had in our community. We need to preserve the land and this production agriculture while continuing to grow the economy in our county. We need to be thoughtful about where we direct development in our county. As staff at a school, I see the need for economic development in the lives of students I work with, but as a young farmer, I know that once the land is taken out of production agriculture, it will never be the same again. We are very blessed to have natural resources and agriculture in our county, and it is our job to protect it. And these are some of the economic impacts that our county has provided with agriculture. It's equipment sales, farm and garden stores, natural gas, power and water lines. We have increased our capacity for infrastructure due to agriculture. Please just keep the next generation of farmers in mind when you're making decisions for the future in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whiten.
Sharon DeRitter.
Good evening, Chairman, council members. Sharon DeRitter, District 1. Many years ago, this council, not you, but this council decided on putting sewer pipes all the way from Conross down to the pump station. We knew it was coming. We were trying to get sewer down there. I didn't hear tonight of how much the pipe has been laid down. I don't know if it's 75%, 90%, I do not know. And I don't know if all those dollar amounts that Amanda gave, the 10.9 million, the Blue Ridge, the 15 million from the county, I don't know if we've used all that money yet. So I guess I didn't get some of my questions answered on that. I love the idea that, I'm a grant person, and I love the idea that we've gone, not quite half, but almost half of the money's coming from the state. I love it that it's got grants coming, and that helps us so that the county's not paying for all of it. You know, it comes to us. I don't know about the grant funding, if there's going to be grant funding in Exit 4 or not, but then that's where the Blue Ridge Electric comes in with probably their money that they're going to bring in. I am for Sewer South. I'm going to tell you, I'm a newcomer to this county. I've only been here 8 years, and if you've been here for 50 or 60 years, you're the old timers. But I'm a newcomer from here, and I firmly believe that you need to have that future economic plan for 5 or 10 years from now and where it's going, and then make it available for the public to give comment in. And we do that on one of those plans that, you know, that the county has to do for the state every 5 or 10 years. But I'm for that the industry and that agriculture can work together. If you go to the very first exit in Georgia, Livonia, you can see that there's a cow farm. They didn't sell. They might sell, but they didn't sell. But then right beside it is the industry. And it might be that for the next 100 years. People can put their land in conservatories if they don't want to sell their land, or if all their kids move away and they have to sell or they want to sell their farm. You know, they can do that on their own. They can sell their own farm however how much they want to get for it. A couple years ago, we had, I believe, 2 town hall meetings, and even Senator Alexander was present. And we had some farmers, because we had people sign in. We had farmers, we had residents, and at that time, we thought it was mandatory if the sewer line was coming by you within 300 feet, you had to, connect up. But I think you guys made that decision that we don't have to do that. That's good, because then if the residents don't want to be a part of it, or the spider webbing out, it doesn't go there. But people were there, and everybody was for Sewer South. Now it's becoming a reality, and then it's like, oh my God, now I don't want Sewer South there. So I don't know. I'm sort of hesitant as why they changed their mind. I think we need Sewer South down there. You go by any interstate, you even go by any major 4 or 6 lane road, and you can see that industry is usually right there because it's easy access to get onto the highway. There's even train tracks that have been put through closer to the interstate so that we can load up and get it on trains too. So I'm for Sewer South, and I hope everybody will change their minds that Sewer South is the way to go. Transparency is a key issue though.
Thank you,
Justin
Mr. Lee.
Abels.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Justin Abels. I'm the Oconee County Farm Bureau president. I'm also a 5th generation farmer. I think most of the issues on the bond have been covered here tonight on both sides. I want to come out and say that my name was brought up by Mr. Hart at a previous meeting about a map he had given me. And some of these rumors that are coming out about the urban sprawl in the county, I think are coming from that map. Mr. Hart, you can attest, you handed me the map that day over at Powell's Tractor, and on it has a 2-mile zone laid completely out. The map's about that big. Several members of Farm Bureau have seen it. A lot of farmers have seen it. The meeting we had down at Ms. McPhail's, it was all basically presented to us like that too. But a lot of this stuff is coming from council about the 2 mile overlay. I am not opposed to Sewer South. I think most of everybody in here tonight, you have not heard one person say, I'm against it. I live 3 or 4 miles from Fairplay. I have 80 acres that my dad and I do own together, within a mile of Fairplay. I've been farming my whole life, but the map, when Mr. Hart presented it to me, you look at the land that's associated. Now, I also agree what Mr. Thrasher said, everybody has a right to do what they want to with their own land. That is not the issue. The issue is when you have, and I heard this correctly, y'all had said, we're not branching out, we're not branching out. Then why is an acting council member showing this proposal? Now, in the meeting last Tuesday night, I watched the video, and it was just a document that you created, correct? Is that an official county document?
Mr. Chairman,
It is not an official county document. Okay, well, what the rumors are coming from that, I think, that you're getting a lot of misinformation out there coming from this council. Now, I don't know why that is, I don't know what that's for, but as you've heard me say, I am for Sewer South, but as in the footprint of I-85, okay, I-85 footprint to me is a half mile, up to maybe a mile off the interstate. I can get on board with that. But what you do when you put that 2 mile zone in there, you take in all the way to Feltman Road. That's correct, right? That's what you had told me. A member of our Farm Bureau Board of Directors has a farm on that road. That's a chicken farm. If you do a 2.5 mile overlay that was initially proposed to, that cuts my farm on Dairy Farm Road smack dab in half. Now, that's what I don't want to see. But my reason is for saying all this is, what is the map for? What was the map, what is its intention? Because I don't know. I don't know what the intention of that map is. Is that a future zone that we're talking about here? Is that something that we look at in 5 to 10 years and say, hey, we can build up to that line? Because I don't know. And that's why I come here tonight to speak to you all. Mr. Hart, you represent Sewer South. You represent the district that Sewer South is in.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
What did I tell you when I gave you that 2 mile radius?
You said this was a line. You wanted our opinion on it. And I'm coming back with our opinion tonight is we don't accept the 2 mile zone because we don't know what it's for. That's the thing, we don't know. We have no idea. So if somebody up here could mind explaining to me and the audience what that map represents, because truthfully, I'm at a loss for words with it. Now, like I said, moving forward, if this is a zoning thing, I know my farm, my dad's farm, like I said, I'm 5th generation. Our family is zoned, citizen-initiated ag. That's what we are. If you can pull up the map and see that's what we are. We own 90% of the land we farm. So the development, if it comes, we will be shielded from some of that. But my questions are more directed at my councilman, because on these issues that we talk about, even tonight, you haven't said a word to any of us out here. You've had Mr. Elliott and Mr. Davis directing this, and I'm not here to attack you, I'm not at all, but I just want to know what your opinion is of Sewer South moving forward, what the map represents, and for some full transparency of this board. Mr. Elliott, thank you for calling this, getting this special meeting tonight, because we had a lot of questions too in our area. We just did not understand the $25 million bond, how it was created, what it looked like as you break it down. Pulled up, like you said, just do the onion. So thank y'all for your time, and thank you. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Rhea Smith.
Good evening, council. My name is Rhea Smith, and I'm a resident of Oconee County, District 1. I serve as the 2024 president of the South Carolina Realtors Association, which serves as a voice for real estate. During the January 16th council meeting, Councilman Elliott stated in favor of development standards during council comments that, quote, "The market sets the price of the home." I also heard Chairman Durham respond that, quote, "Government regulation definitely has an impact on home prices." Both council members' statements have basis in truth. My public comment tonight is to connect the facts between these statements. Market conditions are a factor in the pricing of new construction homes, or any home for that matter. However, that is just one of the layers of the pricing onion. When government regulation incurred costs exceed above the base cost of construction and development to a level beyond what the consumer is willing or able to afford, then those regulations definitely impact home prices. Costs incurred through regulation may be paid upfront by the developer or the builder, if they're not the same entity, and then passed on to the consumer. When costs are inflated by government regulation, then the overall value of that new construction home is artificially inflated beyond base market conditions, which has an impact on all property owners. For example, if the cost incurred resulting from government regulation is an additional $50,000 on a $300,000 home, this results in a price to the buyer at $350,000. That extra $50,000 cost can have a multitude of outcomes or consequences. For many of the hopeful workforce homebuyers looking for the American dream of home ownership, they may simply be priced out of home ownership. For others that have higher purchasing power through the ability to secure that purchase mostly by financing, those additional fees to the base cost of the home are now part of the purchase price. And their mortgage, which they pay interest on, $50,000 more for the duration of their note, oftentimes 30 years. For members of the community, that home sold at $350,000 versus the base cost of $300,000, just artificially inflated area home values beyond market level by $50,000. Sounds great if you're ready to sell. However, if that seller is purchasing in the same market, this causes an inflated affordability gap. And for those who, like me, want to remain in Oconee County for the duration of their lives, it means the taxable value for their home is increased beyond the base market demand by $50,000, causing their property taxes to increase solely on regulatory incurred costs versus the demands of the market. This not only affects property owners, but can impact renters also. If a single-family home is owned by a landlord paying the 6% property tax rate, which actually equates to just over 380% more in tax dollars than the 4% owner-occupant rate, then a decision is made by that landlord owner to either raise rents or sell the property if the rents will not net what is necessary to cover the increased property tax expense. As you can see, there's a real ripple effect and a multiplier effect of government regulation cost as it relates to new construction on the community at large. To be clear, my comments are not to speak against government regulation and developer standards on new construction. Oconee has lower standards for development compared to other areas. With sewer expansion in the works, it is time to look at these standards. Developers will follow reasonable levels of standards when clearly, reasonably, and statically defined. What I request is that our government leaders be considerate to the impacts, the decisions, and regulations created, what they have on our supply of workforce housing inventory, of which locally and nationally we remain in crisis. We want our teachers, law enforcement, EMS, frontline medical workers, all to have access to the American dream of home ownership. A home is where a job goes to bed at night, and affordability is what puts jobs in homes. I've heard many times we don't have the workers for the jobs we have. As someone on the front line of the real estate industry, part of the issue is that there is not availability of the homes for these workers. We want to continue to have Oconee County be the greatest place to live, work, and play, and we should be considerate of the ways in which both development and government regulation impact these three things. When making decisions in government that impact housing and real estate, you can lean on realtor organizations for information as we tirelessly advocate for private property rights, safe communities, workforce, affordable housing, and the American dream of home ownership. I'm also glad to be called on as a resource and a connector. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Nikki Haney.
I'll make mine short and sweet. My name is Mickey Haney. I'm from the Salem area. I'm a multi-generation farmer in the Whitewater community. So I'm hoping to bring perspective from a farmer, but also someone who's worked in the manufacturing industry since I got out of service. Not only that, I'm both of the types of landowners we have in Oconee County. So the first thing I want to talk about is the two types of landowners. The first type is the individual that bought land for investment. They plan at some time in the future to sell it when the time is right or the price is right. The other type of landowner is generally the person who's had that land passed down to them. There's a lot of memories in that land. When they walk through the field, through the woods, by the creeks, they realize, and those memories come back to life. It's something very personal to them. That's why they get so offended when somebody comes up to the driveway and says, "Hey, that back acreage back there, you interested in selling it?" No, they're not. Because it's personal to them. It has a lot of memories. So a lot of the fear peddling going on, I don't think it takes in consideration for the other type of landowner, the one who will not sell. And those are generally your farmers. I've heard up here and also in social media about how Sewer South is going to greatly affect the farmers. And I agree, it is. It's going to greatly benefit the farmers. And how's it going to do that? Well, I drive about an hour and a half every day to work, because most of the farmers here in Oconee County subsidize their income from the farm with other active incomes. So Sewer South is going to bring a better life to those farmers by giving them more time. You think about it, 6 to 7 hours a week could be saved if your job is only 15 minutes away. Some people say, well, that's almost a whole day's work. Well, for a farmer, that's a half a day's work. The other thing is, they can spend that time improving the farm, making it more profitable. They can spend that time with their family. It's also going to give that farmer a means to get an attractive, active income and to create passive income in those areas. It's also going to give that farmer the ability, when they're aging, for their next generation to be able to obtain jobs in that area and to take care of the farm so it doesn't get grown up and sold off because they realize they can no longer afford to keep the upkeep on it. And last but not least, Sewer South has the ability to be as big or bigger revenue generator than New Power, if managed correctly. If we bring in the right industry along that corridor, you're talking about relieving the tax burden on the citizens and doing things like, not long ago, we was talking about a Greenway Trail. It was mentioned by one of the council members that had spent $30 million on a Greenway Trail. $30 million. With zero direct return on investment and iffy indirect return. Sewer South has a great potential for direct return on investment if managed correctly. And I thank y'all for finally getting it going through after decades of discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Haney.
Ellen Hott.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ellen Hotz, and I am a proud person that lives in District 1. And I appreciate this meeting being called so that we do have more transparency to also dissuade the fear and the anger and someone said the cynicism, all the things that we're seeing way too much of. I've been in Oconee County. I'm a newcomer. I've been here since '95. And I've seen all the growth and seen what's happened. And I think, I'm from Indiana and I'm from farmers, so I support y'all 100%. bedroom communities that start to crop up. Someone mentioned Atlanta, that it's creeping down, and it is. And I appreciate the fact that people own their land and they wanted to do what they wanted to do with it, and zoning has been a big issue around here. But I think that we've reached a point, and I just came from Clemson today. I don't really like to go there, but that's where my dentist is, so I'm still staying loyal to him. But where's Clemson gonna go? I mean, the students are already wanting housing in Seneca. I mean, what is our vision for the community? And it's a balancing act, and I'm not saying that it's easy, but I think to really listen to the people that have been up here tonight, I had to hold myself back a few times from not applauding, because I really, really agreed with the sentiments that were being expressed and the direction that we want to see Oconee County go. And, you know, I don't see affordable housing happening. You know, the property values have gone up and up and up. I was fortunate to be on the lake for a while early on and have seen what's happened on Lake Kiwi, and the prices going up and up and up. Where do the workers live? The blue collar workers, the people that are moving up, that are trying to better themselves and for their families. I mean, where is that happening? I don't see it. And it's like the haves and the have-nots. And, you know, the 130 developments off of 130, we don't have the infrastructure. I mean, I'm looking at it now. I'm off Bountyland Road, and that road stinks. I mean, it needs pothole repair. It needs to be repaved. And that's not the only road. And I know everybody around here probably drives on one. Where did that money from Mr. Biden come from? I mean, where is it going? Where's it? I don't see it in Oconee County. Nobody's talking about, well, we got this from the administration and this is what we're doing with it. So I'm all for transparency. I am for growth. I am for considerate growth, for thoughtful growth, for listening to everyone who does want the growth, but they want it to be in a way that they don't have to spend 30 minutes to get to their dentist when it used to take 8. You know, it's just, Clemson's already seeing the problem, and we are too. There's auto accidents. I've seen 4 that have held up traffic in just the last 2 weeks. I don't, you know, structure, people get frustrated because they can't get there quickly enough. So I guess that's probably all I have to say. I care very deeply for this county. I appreciate you, Mr. Elliott, Councilman Elliott, and for having this meeting and for being my councilman. And I hope y'all can get together and place principles before personalities, that things can get done, things can get done for the people. And that's who we are, and that's where the money comes from. So I thank y'all for your time and attention, and thank you everyone who spoke.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's all for this evening.
That's all. Turn my microphone back on. Okay, next we have council member comments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank everyone that's turned out tonight. This is wonderful. I wish we had this every council meeting. We need everybody's input. I mean, we're 5 people representing 80,000 people. We need the input. So please, come back, encourage friends. Ms. Brock, maybe we need more chairs. I don't know.
I'd love to get more chairs if this is a regular occurrence.
I don't know what the fire marshal would say about that.
306.
Pick a room.
And then I want to address, I think the lady's name was Linda Love. She was asking questions about council members and will they benefit from sewer south. I own half-acre land, and it's not in District 5, District 1. I have no financial interest in sewer south. I just want to do what's right for this county. I appreciate everybody coming and expressing tonight, but I hope every council member will address her comments. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Mr. Durham?
Yes, Mr. Hart.
Mr. Durham, you might remember that me and you went to the Oconee County Farm Bureau meeting, and the president, Mr. Abels, was there, plus about 10, 20 more people, and they were asking me and you to vote no on Sewer South. You remember that? They
Yes.
said the stakes, and when we got outside, you said, was the stakes worth all the chewing that we got? And it wasn't. But trying to satisfy these farmers, I went to the GIS department and had them to draw up a map, and it had a 3 mile, it had a 2 mile, a 4 mile, and I gave it to Mr. Abels, and I asked him to check with his people and see if that 2 miles was a scale to back it up, if it come down to 1 3/4 mile, 1.5 mile, or 1 mile, and let me know something. Well, that 2 miles that was in there divided all of the golden corners. It was all, that 2 miles just about went right through the middle of it. And I asked him when he was complaining about Sewer South, that his father's the one that bought the golden corners and made it for a business area for growth. And he sort of shied away from that. But the 2 miles, that was just something that I had drawn up to try to get some input. And when I asked him the last time, he's gonna have Tim Dawn, and until tonight is the first time I've heard from them since then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any other comments?
Yeah, I got a couple. Just touching base on, if somebody asked me why Sewer South wasn't done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it wasn't because it couldn't get done, it was because the dollar figure attached to Sewer South. I think most council members that's ever came through here have been in favor of the corridor, especially exit 4, has been discussed for years and years and years. The exit 2, there's been that project on 1 every now and again, so it kind of brings up, but I think from everything that I heard, and every council before us, they brought it to Golden Corner with intent on taking it to 4. I brought that up in a meeting, and I was kind of slandered that the reason why I wanted it at 4 had to do with somebody sitting on a board. But, you know, we're not up here to cast stones tonight. I said I wasn't gonna do that. But, you know, it's part of it that we look at. I'm the one that said, I don't want the spiders. I hadn't heard from any other council members, because if you start looking at the $25 million bond, exits 4, 2, and 1 don't cost us but about $13 to $15 million. So where's the other 10? That's the question. That's the elephant in the room. Where's the other 10? So we hear maps that get presented. We hear, I don't know, did any council member go and speak at Chickasaw Point? So no council member up here's been to Chickasaw Point, men's club?
When?
Huh?
How long ago?
In the last, I don't know, 2 years?
I was there 4 years ago for a re-election. That's
So nobody, so with Sewer South, nobody's had discussions with them. Because it was pretty clear that some intent came about us running it up there. Which is interesting that somebody makes that up, because usually that's not really the subdivision that makes up Rumors. So, but we addressed those as we moved on there. One of the things I kind of brought up is, I was at the Farm Bureau meeting, breakfast or whatever, and I got presented the map, and I had no clue what the map was. I think I handled it properly, because my whole thing is, I've never seen that map. So when stuff gets presented to the public, it's an assumption that it is, in some way, shape, or form, some kind of county document. It may not be official, so we won't go that far. So it brings the confusion out of there. But I think there hasn't been, unless I'm wrong, and I think we can do it tonight, to show what the payment scale's gonna be on the bond. I think we have that, it's pretty easy to put up. That's public information. How the first payments are gonna be made, I think that needs to be discussed tonight. And then we're talking about the return on the investment. I believe the return on the investment, again, is gonna come from Golden Corner, which already has sewer, but needs to be graded, and the exit 4 area. That's where your biggest return is gonna be. Maybe I'm wrong, we're talking about industrial development, but council, I was on that council. We chose the industrial park on Highway 11 over Golden Corner Commerce Park to be graded for 2 reasons. Number one, that was a higher requested industrial park, and we were in partnership with the school district and Tri-County Tech. And I think if everybody in this room can look and say that was a good investment, and it's definitely paid for itself. That's the hope for this plan, is when we start looking at that, if we're gonna put this amount of investment out there, we should see that return as quick as what we saw on the industrial park on Highway 11. One of the other things that was kind of brought up, there was several industries that was mentioned by one of the speakers. Not a single one of those industries is on the interstate. The interstate is not the silver bullet of the attractor. It helps. Location to the interstate is why Oconee County's done so good attracting the industry. And that's one of the number one things, and it's interesting, even when we've had Golden Corner up, they've chosen OITP over it. It's further from the interstate, but it's within the workforce. So workforce is constantly what I hear in economic development meetings that I've been in across the state. They talk about workforce, attracting workforce. And I think we're doing some good things. And they talk about what is attracting workforce. And quality of life is a huge one. There's a statement that I see out there that we're focused only on parks, recreation, and tourism. And I think if you talk to anybody that's in our PRT area that works for this county, they will say that that has not been true. And we just recently, in the last 2-3 years, actually set aside some small millage to help get our parks back in good shape, and you're seeing that with a lot of those. So to say that that's been, council's number one priority and we're focused on tourism, Oconee County sells itself. We don't have to do anything. People want to move here. We can either take care of the stuff we have, which is why most council voted to put some millage in place to take care of our stuff. Thank you for putting that up. So that one's kind of interesting to me to hear that we're focused only on tourism and becoming a veteran community. Thank goodness that retirees want to come live here. That's why your taxes are so low. So when you see somebody that's retired here and building a house, maybe it's a second house, maybe it's a third house, you better thank them, because that is why your taxes are so low. So those are some huge things that I sit here and think about, from an agricultural side of things. People ride through our area out there. I live on a farm out there off 24. I made the statement that I don't want the urban sprawl. I don't want that. So I hadn't heard any other council members say that. I don't want the spiders. I don't know where the extra money is gonna go. That's the kicker. Exits 1, 2, and 4, I'm 100% for. So, and I'm gracious that the state is for that, but don't think we're the only undeveloped interstate in South Carolina.
Ms. Brock, can you address a lot of different numbers been thrown around about the estimated costs associated with the projects in relation to the $25 million bond? And then address the debt services fund and the bond payment schedule.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of council, and of course the audience. These are the paramount questions, everyone. The burning questions in the room, of course, that are of value to everyone to know. Just for reference materials, that is not an official payment schedule up on the screen. When the bond presentation was made to Standard & Poor's and Moody's, Oconee County's financial advisors worked diligently with our legal counsel, our bond counsel at that time, to go through that debt profile, and that they made a demonstration and came to speak with counsel Once photographic memories fading out to just a Kodak moment here. It was in September, August of last year, I do believe. I can find the exact date. And that document can be reflected here in the backup materials for this evening's meeting, which all of the documents you see on the screen will also be in backup materials. So if there's something unclear, you can print your own version of it. So essentially, the county looked at options for the plan as presented previously with the cost estimates as stated exactly and precisely by Mr. Elliott from the document. The total bonding amount, I believe, and someone on council, please correct me if I'm incorrect here, that my notes indicate because of the difference of the estimation in the current phase that we're working on, had a pretty significant jump in the estimation to construction costs, that there would be an ability for council to add in that extra money should those actual bid costs come back as significantly higher than the estimates on the document that Mr. Elliott was reading from. Just out of curiosity's sake, I started digging through the mound of paper related to sewer to 85 in my office. And strangely enough, came up with a document that was created in December of 2004 that it highlights phase 1 for sewer to include the Welcome Center up to Golden Corner Commerce Park, and that estimate at that time was $9.9 million. The current bid for the project came in at 12.3, but our engineering estimate was a little over $7 million. So knowing how far off we were from that, I believe it was council's intent to make sure to borrow and bond adequate funds to cover the cost, even if that cost was greater than the anticipated engineering or estimated cost. The bond payment schedule reflection is on that piece of paper. Is a document I have in my hand. We can also include this in backup. The first bond payment due on April 1st, 2024 will be $517,361. The bond schedule, it goes to April 1st, 2043. It is a 20-year bond, not a 50-year, not a 25-year. I did see online someone said that they thought it was a 50-year bond. I don't know that they allow 50-year bonds for this type of infrastructure. It was not an option for Oconee County to select a 50-year bond. The two options available for bond repayment schedule were 20 years and 25 years. We did get 16 bids on the bond, which according to our financial advisor, Brent Robertson at Stifel Financial Advisors, was unheard of. In the most impressive way, that it was a record number of bids received on those bonds, and that we did receive a premium because our credit score was improved. That payment schedule again reflected over a 20-year period, the borrowing amount sum total being just about $27 million, including all extra costs, including the bond attorney, financial advisement, insurance, wire transfer insurance, et cetera, et cetera. The grand total for repayment is $42,204,361.11. That payment schedule will be included in this evening's backup. I did ask the county auditor to attend as well in the event that there were any future concerns about millage. Debt millage is a categorical different line item revenue resource in the Oconee County budget. The funding is tax dollars, but it is not included in the general fund operating portion of Oconee County. If anyone would like Ms. Hubbard to speak, I have asked if she is comfortable to do so. I would hate for her to have sat here all this time and not have this opportunity.
Ms. Herbert, would you like to speak on how the debt services fund works and the millage that goes in and what that's gonna look like? Yes, ma'am.
When I talk about bond dollars, I'm including all 4 bonds that we currently have out. When I did my projection today of what our bond millage may be over the next 8 years, and I chose 8 years because on the 7th year, that is when our
other 3 bonds are gonna be paid out. So the 8th year will be, unless you float any more other bonds, that will be the only one that will be, where we'll be paying payments back. Financially speaking, it looks pretty good because when the bond payment schedule was made, over the next 8 years, the payments, the spread at most is $167,000. So what that means, and I used a 3% increase annually just for an estimated value for assessments. The highest that our millage may be will be the next 2 years, where it will be 4.3 or 4.2 mils. And at the end of the 8th year, we would get back down to like 3.3 mils. So it would be 4.3, 4.2, 3.9, 3.8, 6.543. Basically is what it would look like, as long as assessed values hold true and as long as no other bonds are floated.
Thank you, Ms. Herbert. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Herbert?
And I also wanted to say that the premium from the bond on December 1st, and I'm not the treasurer, but I did do my homework today. On December 1st, $1.6 million was deposited into the bond funding account, and that will take care of basically the first 2 payments that are due April of '24 and October of '24 this year, which millage was not set on last year.
Thank you, Ms. Herbert.
So one question. So the bond funding account, is it invested in the South Carolina investment pool?
I am not the treasurer, and I cannot answer that.
So for the
It should be, but again, I'm not the treasurer.
For the public's knowledge, the premium, because the county had such a high credit rating, we was given a premium, and correct me if I misspeak, on top of the bond amount. State law requires that bonding to go towards debt services, so you can't go out and spend it on something else. That was deposited in the debt services account, and that's what used, as Ms. Herbert said, to pay the first 2 years of premium. That allows more of the outstanding debt to fall off, as she was talking.
Any other questions?
Are you asking us if we have any questions?
No. No.
I don't get to ask a question.
No, sir. Any other council member questions?
Mr. Brock, what, you talking about the financial, what year did they use to show our financial status? What year was presented to show
The
what,
previous 10 years, it's a comprehensive look at the county's stability.
what was the latest year?
2022,
2022.
the final closed out audit. Now, you are allowed to include unaudited numbers. So in the bond presentation, we were allowed to verbally address unaudited numbers, but everything that was an audited number was legally allowed to be included in the document, because we had to have the auditor's letter of certification to provide that the information we were provided was correct.
And so last time my bond rating was less, not as good, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
So I guess we did a good job, I suppose.
A lot of it's based on the sinking fund and the money that we have in the bank to pay back debt and services for months.
Thank you, Ms. Herbert.
Thank you, Mr.
Any other council member comments?
Yes, Chairman. I don't know where to start. I appreciate all y'all folks coming out. It's been a great meeting. It's been an eye-opener for me. I'm the freshman up here. I'm in my sophomore year. Started my second year. But a lot of good stuff has come out of this. I really don't know where to start, but there's not a single one of us up here that's against farmers. We are for progress, and we are for developing the I-85 corridor. It's gonna help the citizens of Oconee County. I've lived here my entire life. I've been here 66 years, and I've known fair play. Fair play, over the years, in my early years, was a depressed area. There was really no industry down there until the Yoder's Corporation came in. We had the truck stop, if you want to go get something to eat. I think y'all have a Dollar General there now. But this is gonna help fair play progress better into the 21st century. I'm looking forward to it. I know there's a lot of folks against it, so I sat here and I took a lot of notes, and I've added up of all the folks that spoke. I didn't count the write-ins, but all the folks that spoke, it was overwhelmingly positive for Sewer South. There was 10 or 11 positives, there were 2 middle of the road, there were 4 negatives. Just want you to know, I hope you've got the information you need. There was a couple of points about the map, and wanted to make sure everyone understands that was a reference map. It was not to be used as an official map. It was not anything that we were going to use to dictate where sewer lines were going. Later on, possibly sewer's going to come up Highway 11 and tie right get up to the OITP. I mean, progress is coming. We can't stop it. And so that's what we're looking forward to, is progress, a better way of life for everybody. We have to look at the entire county. I know District 5 is 20% of the county. The 5 districts is 20% of the county. But we've got to look out for 100% of the county. So that's the reason some of the decisions are made up here, whether they're favorable or not. Hard decisions have to be made. Everyone's not going to be happy. But we've got to try to merge it together and bring everybody together with it. So I appreciate everybody turning out. And I think it was a very positive meeting. And Mr. Elliott, I appreciate you bringing it up the other night and us passing a motion to bring this up. Ms. Brock, I appreciate you bringing all the data and the presentation that you did. And I think that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mize. Any other council member comments?
I'd like to thank all the people for showing up and showing an interest in this. That's in the district that I am in charge of right at the moment. And when I was running for election 8 years ago, I told you that I was going to bring Sewer South to fair play. So I just done what I told you I was going to do, and the people that don't like it, there's a lot of people that do like it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any other comments?
I do have one other comment, not unrelated to Sewer South. I know there was a lot of mention about the roads, and I'm with you with the roads. Some of our county roads, and Ms. Brock's working as hard as she can on county roads, but a lot of them state roads. And what I would encourage you to do is burn the ears of your state representatives. Make sure that you're sending them pictures, you're sending them emails, you're identifying these roads. One in particular is dear to my heart is Highway 59. I travel it once or twice a month at least, going to see my grandkids in Georgia. That road is literally crumbling, and it's a major thoroughfare. It needs to be repaired. It needs to be moved up in the list. And if this sewer goes through, they're going to have to fix Highway 59, especially from the interstate to the Golden Corner Commerce Park. It's got some major problems. But I encourage you, for the road problems, get in touch with your state representatives and let them know. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Mize. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, may I address one thing?
Yes, miss.
There was 2 comments this evening regarding executive session discussions. I just want to clarify for the public and just for the benefit of everyone, budget matters cannot be discussed in executive session. There are very limited matters that can be discussed in executive session. Most of them are related to either economic development or private contractual matters, and most of which come out after the fact, and they may become more public after that time. A discussion in economic development, or an executive session regarding economic development may come out as an announcement in like a project name. I know that if you've read any agenda over the past 6 or 8 months, you've seen Project Oconee or Project Tablecloth. Those things go into executive session because they're very competitive where companies look to locate for business and industry in the region. And the county has an option to name them as a separate project if they're coming from Department of Commerce. And the reason they don't get out is because other counties would know which counties they're competing with. They could easily look up our tax rate, our tax base, our valuations, and make us either more or less competitive. Those things typically do come out afterward if the project comes to fruition. Another matter would be a personnel matter. Another matter would be a contractual matter or a potential contractual matter. And then a final matter would be anything related to IT or security or physical security. Can I leave off anything, Mr. Reed?
You got the main ones.
Okay, great. I just want to clarify that there's never under any circumstances that we discuss budget matters behind closed doors. It is the public's money. Everyone is very aware of the public's money. I think every person on council, Mr. Reed, and I are very cognizant and very restrictive on what we discuss in executive session.
Thank you, Ms. Brock.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Hang on one second, Mr. Hart. I do appreciate everyone coming out tonight. As one of the speakers mentioned, it was a 5-year, 10-year plan, but really it's preparing for 30 years down the road. We're very fortunate to live where we are, and we have a good economic base. And as Mr. Davis said, we're in a good position to be picky in selecting what industries we bring here. What now feels like in a past life, I coached college football, and in that role, I've traveled the whole state of South Carolina. I've been in just about every high school, and I've spent time in every county. And we kind of get insulated from it if you just drive the highways to the beach or to Columbia, but there is a lot of poverty in South Carolina. And there's a lot of hopelessness. I did a home visit one time in Dillon, South Carolina, and they literally had a dirt floor. And for kids in those communities, there is no hope. And this is putting infrastructure in the ground to plan for a future for generations from now. And I do appreciate everybody coming out. Everybody be patient with my failing voice. And thank you.
I still make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?